What's up guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and today I have finally caught up with the My Hero volumes in terms of volume reviews, and I've got volume 17 and 18 here as the last dual volume reviews basically, and volume 19 will be a single volume review. This is the conclusion of the overall arc and kind of the segue and beginning of the next arc, kind of getting you into it. But these two volumes are fantastic. I think Horikoshi does a fantastic job of wrapping up and continuing on the effects of the arc post overhaul fight. One thing I want to say is these two covers are absolutely fantastic. I like to always bring up when Horikoshi does fantastic covers, which is most of the time, but I think 17 takes the cake for me, and it is probably my favourite My Hero cover just of the series so far. I think the 20 and 21 are probably both better, but those haven't been released in English yet, so as of now, in terms of English release, 17 is probably my favourite cover. And 18 is not too bad either. But we'll get straight into the final dual volume review for My Hero with volume 17, which is kind of the beginning of the end of the final fight, and it ramps up significantly in this volume. The first thing that I want to talk about, which happens at the beginning of the volume, is not something I expected at all, and that's kind of a little bit of a focus on the villains. And I really like their dynamic in this between the League of Villains and Overhaul's kind of group, and Overhaul's Yakuza, and also the heroes. I kind of like the three-way dynamic there, because nobody really trusts another person. The heroes are kind of being helped by the villains, but they don't really trust them at the same time. And the Yakuza think that Toga and Twice are there to help them, but they're not. And I really like this. This is probably one of my favourite scenes in the whole of these two volumes, is when Shigaraki kind of has a mental talk with Twice. I think that was fantastic, and it's really showing his progression, how he realises that, as opposed to him being a childish figure at the beginning of the series who always wanted everything to go his way, how he needs to be motivational and speak in a certain way that kind of guides his League of Villains to be more successful in what they're doing and have more plans and strategies. And the way that he talks to Twice kind of shows that perhaps he's even going to care about them in a certain way. And I do really like the fact that even though they're not the main protagonists in this arc, they're still kind of looked upon and shown some significance, considering they probably will end up being the final villains for the series. I don't think Shigaraki Deku is definitely kind of there ready to be the final fight of the series. So that's the fact that Horikoshi's doing a job of setting that up now, and kind of setting up that progression silently in the background is very nice. And just even the stuff with Twice and Toga, it's just, all of it was really good. I don't think Horikoshi focused on it for too long, because obviously that's not the main point of this arc and of this volume. So I think that Horikoshi did a good job of implementing them into the arc, but not having them take the main focus away from what's actually happening. So it's a good balance and a difficult one to find, but Horikoshi has done a good job. But from about this point onwards, it gets into the final fight and the real big kind of hard hittings of the overall arc. One thing that I have got to say, or kind of problem that I had going into this final fight about the arc, is that although I usually praise Horikoshi for his coherence through the fights and his drawings during fights, to show that it's very easy to tell kind of what's going on, as opposed to something like Kishimoto. And a lot of the fights when I was reading Naruto, they were kind of difficult to like understand. There was a lot going on, but I think that Horikoshi, just through his artwork, does a really good job. But I think in this overall arc, he kind of loses that a little bit, and some of the fights lose a bit of that quality that makes them kind of unique and different. It loses the quality and becomes a bit more like something like Kishimoto's fights, although I like them. I definitely prefer these because they're a lot more coherent, but I think he loses that a little bit in this arc. But it's nothing too major, because I think it definitely picks up in the final fight, and the overall Deku fight is really easy to understand, and everything flows really well in it. It's just at a few points throughout the arc, he loses that a little bit. So that's just one kind of problem I have with it. But I'll tell you what, I think that Horikoshi definitely knows how to end an arc, because everything that happens from the Togata overhaul beginning fight is absolutely fantastic. I kind of had mixed feelings about the arc going into it. I thought it was probably the second, or more likely third best arc in the series after the forest and the sports festival. But this definitely has the most implications. Tokusa losing his quirk was not something I expected at all. It definitely took me by surprise, but I feel like he will get it back through the progression of Eri herself being able to reverse his time to a time where he had his quirk, like he said. But the fact that he lost it, the fact that he tried so hard afterwards, even definitely shows that he's a pro hero material. And my guess is that he'll definitely get his quirk back, and he'll fight and probably become the next All Might figure before Deku completely evolves into his quirk. That is just how I see it happening, so I don't think he's going to have his quirk lost for too long. But these couple pages here where they showed all of Tokusa's like backstory and stuff was really, really well done. I kind of wish they kind of spent a tiny bit more time just kind of fleshing out his character before this happened. I think it would have been a bit more impactful, although it was quite impactful itself. I think it still would have been a bit more if they focused and fleshed out. But obviously Horikoshi has a certain amount of pages and time to do these things, so some stuff's going to be pushed aside. But for something as important as this, I kind of thought you could have had a bit more progression before this event happening. But the way that Deku comes in here as well is also fantastic. Horikoshi likes to save his protagonist for last and to be kind of the final fight. And I think that it's done well here. It's understandable why he's been pushed aside until the end of it, given room for other characters, and I do like Tokusa's involvement in this final fight. And I like the way that Deku was put into it. I've got no problems at all with that. Like I said, I just kind of wish that there was a bit more put on Tokusa in this volume. But yeah, nothing too much to say. And one tiny other issue I have, and obviously that it kind of correlates with the other one, in terms of Horikoshi doesn't have that much time to do these things. I kind of wish the fight was just a little bit longer. That's the only other problem I have with it. If the fight was a bit longer, I think I would have enjoyed it a bit more. But I just realised with manga fights, they are usually quite condensed and short, and a lot more favour is given to the speech and dialogue between fights as opposed to the anime, which I think, because people that watch anime much prefer fights than dialogue, and it's obviously easier to translate a fight through animation. The fights are a lot longer in anime, and I do expect the overhaul fight to be probably from beginning to end probably 4 or 5 episodes long, just simply because there's a lot of different stages to it, beginning with Lemillion and ending with Deku. So I do believe it'll be quite long, but I do like everyone's involvement in this last fight. I think it was good, and definitely the highlight of the arc. Even Eri's involvement, I think that instead of being like someone that's just continually scared, the way that she kind of changes and helps Deku in the end was really, really cool. It was really nice and really enjoyable. So basically, this was a great volume. I don't think it has as much greatness as volume 18, as I'm going to get to that in a minute. I don't want to be talking about this for too long, because I've almost been recording for 10 minutes and I haven't even gone to the next volume, which I'll be talking about a lot. I kind of like the stages of overhaul. You see him begin to lose it and just go for just brute strength to be able to fight Deku, as opposed to his more usually composed attitude, as he always believes he has the upper hand in fights, something I think he loses now. So that's also something quite well done. But that's all I'll say on volume 17, and we'll go over to volume 18 now. So yeah, we're going into volume 18 now. I'll talk about the very post-overhaul arc things first, like the Todoroki and Bakugo and the kids stuff, because I just feel like that would just be easy to touch on, and something quick to talk about before I get into what I think is the main part of this volume. So obviously Todoroki being my favourite character, it's pretty nice to see him after a few volumes without him in it. I thought this was nice kind of comic relief stuff after a lot of serious events happening. I think that it was well bitten by Horikoshi, just a little segue into into the Culture Festival, which is going to be the next little arc. So it was pretty cool. You got to see. Probably my favorite part of it was that progression from Bakugo. Have a look when he talks to the kid, and he's like, take it from someone who knows you. If you're not looking at other people, you'll just fall behind them. It was something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but it was similar to that, and that was really cool. Even that little scene there, you can just see Bakugo kind of changing himself, although he probably still like has the attitude that he wants to become better than everyone. He's focusing more on people around him and how he can learn from them and how they react to situations. Yeah, it's here. And how they react to situations, and taking that to help him progress. So that was cool. And obviously another big thing that happened there was the Todoroki and Endeavor little speech here. I'm very excited because I believe there's a whole kind of arc focused on the pro heroes, and especially Endeavor as number one. I think that this kind of is a nice little hint to the progression of that in the future, and it's kind of setting up, I believe, Endeavor's death. Something I think is inevitable, but there just needs to be a number one replacement, who I think is going to be Togusa. So yeah, that's kind of how I believe events are going to transpire, but Horikoshi does a good job of proving me wrong, so yeah, it's probably not going to happen, but just him going, I'm proud of you, son, and changing. I don't think that what he's done will ever be kind of forgivable, but I think he's working his way towards a redemption arc. So that's all well and good. And obviously this thing at the end with, I can't remember his name, Naval Laser guy, was quite interesting, but I think that will translate better into the next volume. So now I'll just get into the conclusion of the overhaul arc stuff. Obviously I've taken this volume from back to front, but I think that this is the best thing that I can talk about, because this is just an amazing conclusion. The fight was probably the worst part of the conclusion, even though it was absolutely amazing. The way the Horikoshi draws Deku now, going up to for his punches and stuff, and even overhaul to some extent, is just amazing. I really felt immersed in this fight, and although it wasn't that long in this volume, it was still really, really good. But I think that where shit really goes down is after, because as I was previously speaking about in the last volume, the League of Villains, I think that they were well placed in this arc, and the way that they kind of hijacked the van with Overhaul in it was just really cool. I expected all the action to be over, and I really didn't think that this is how I was going to conclude. But the fact that they basically killed Overhaul and stole some stuff from him was absolutely crazy. It seemed like Shigaraku's bending to Overhaul's will because he didn't think that he was stronger than him or that he could do anything. But I think that this line here, just because this is our time, just basically sums it up perfectly, that they were kind of working from the shadows through that whole arc and working on a plan that will definitely help them in the future. And it was really good. It had me so shocked and surprised at the way it was done, and Horikoshi definitely got me on that one. It was really well done. And then you get into the sad part, and I do think that Horikoshi, again, that's all I've been doing for the last 40 minutes, is just praising him. Does a great job here with the death. I think the death came at a perfect time to a character that wasn't so relevant that his death would be really kind of important and maybe come at a negative time to where people wouldn't really understand it, but also not so little that it didn't mean anything. The way that it affects All Might, Togusa and Deku was just really surprising, and I didn't actually expect Nagai to die, and it was really emotional because I thought everything was cleared up and I thought he would survive, but he just, it's just really sad. I think you have to read it yourself and kind of read some of the dialogue just between the characters and kind of how he regrets the way he treated Togusa. It was really powerful, the way he changed. But I don't really want to talk about it too much because I think that it's something where you have to experience it yourself in order to fully grasp the emotion behind it. But all I'm going to say is that it was probably one of the most emotional scenes to happen in My Hero, and I think that it was a good time for a death. 18 volumes in to kill off what I would consider one of the important or main characters in the series. Although we haven't known it for too long, he was definitely a vital point to this arc, and kind of how everyone reacts to that is important, and how people are afterwards. So again, absolutely love what Horikoshi did in this volume, and I think for the first time I'm going to have to give 2 5s to these 2 volumes, making it an overall score of 10 out of 10, because as much as I was kind of worried about the final fight going into the overall arc, and kind of at the beginning of it, whether Horikoshi how he could deliver to make a fight that was on par with something like Bakugo Deku #2, or All Might, One for All, or even Deku Todoroki to a certain extent. But he definitely did deliver and did a fantastic job of that. Also with a lot of repercussions from the arc, and I think that this was the first one where they really lost a lot, with Togata losing his quirk, Eraserhead almost losing his quirk, and obviously Night Eye dying, as well as the fact that they didn't even manage to capture everyone questioning because of Shigaraki. And so coupling that with the League of Villains' involvement in the arc, kind of subtly working on the sidelines until right at the very end, where they made their grand appearance after everyone thought the action was over, just together made a perfect combination for this final 2 volumes. So kudos to Horikoshi for these 2, and I look forward to the future arcs to come, and obviously it's going to be 1 volume reviews from now on, as I'm up to date. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these 2 volume reviews and this final one for 17 and 18. Other than that, have a great day, and I've got MCM London Comic Con, which I'm going to tomorrow, which is going to be pretty fun. I'll see what I'll pick up there. So yeah, other than that, have a great day, and peace.